Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host as always, that guy Franky, yours truly, coming at you with a brand new video in store because today is a brand new day.
Say that again?
If you follow me over on Instagram, over at Franky the Midget, then you'll know that this video is essentially a sequel to that short clip. This video is a full-on video essay of Dan Slott's retelling of his old story. Now let's discuss this by swinging into action. Dan Slott's Brand New Day is a retelling of the 2008-2010 titular run, but rather than continuing the controversial story that is One More Day, this version retcons it in a sense. Anywho, in this retelling, Dan Slott changes narratives and key points from before into something better for the current story, making it easier to digest. Brand New Day picks up after the events of Marvel's iconic Civil War, where one decision led to Peter Parker's life being turned upside down. After he unmasks himself, revealing that he is Spider-Man, it not only puts his loved ones and friends in harm's way, but leaves Aunt May in the hospital. So instead of Mephisto doing the spell, it's instead Doctor Strange, one of Peter Parker's dear friends. In what I find similar to that of No Way Home, the spell works, but rather than having everyone forget about Peter Parker, they simply just forget that he is Spider-Man. With this recap, in many ways, it feels like they're bringing in MCU fans over to the comic book world without feeling overwhelmed as to where to start, and honestly, it works. Though I started with the recap of events, the main factor that comes into play is a book known as the Lexicon of Crime. The book holds valuable information of every major illegal enterprise within New York City. The book happens to be in Fisk Tower, and Fisk makes his way there to try and retrieve it, only to find our favorite wall-crawling menace drinking soda in his chair with the lexicon in his hand. Fisk is not only jump scared but annoyed and tries to get it back, but it's no use as Humpty Dumpty gets his butt kicked by the webhead. In the middle of the fight, Fisk tries to remember Spider-Man's identity as he recalls watching it happen live on television for everyone to see, and I love that little nod to the spell. It doesn't feel weird, and it adds more weight to the spell doing its job, and we'll see a common trope with Peter's identity throughout the story come into play. Spider-Man threatens to humiliate Fisk's defeat to the crime families held within the lexicon should Fisk talk and warn them about Spider-Man's mission to bring them down. Spidey also mentions that he knows about the deal that Fisk made with the devil, and though not Mephisto, this is the deal with Daredevil himself, and to leave without looking back. The interaction between the two is tense, serious, and action-packed, and made me think of that meme where if you piss off Spider-Man enough, you better be worried if he's not cracking jokes. The art from Marcus Toe translates really well, and the dialogue is good enough to balance well with the artistry on display. From there, we pretty much follow Peter going through some areas mentioned within the lexicon. We watch him enter a stash house run by the Magia family and a debuting Electro who's not blue but is being paid as muscle to keep the operation together. And long story short, Electro puts up a fight but loses because, come on, it's Spider-Man. He's not gonna lose, at least for right now. A bunch of the money being held there is shot and destroyed, but the part that makes me laugh from the panels the most is Spider-Man smacking Electro across the face with the giant bluefin tuna. It's lights out for Electro from here, and the goons are webbed up to be arrested by none other than Yuri Watanabe and New York's finest to apprehend. Apart from this comic bringing in MCU fans with elements similar to the MCU like in No Way Home and the events of Daredevil Born Again Season 2, the Spectacular Spider-Man Brand New Day also tries to incorporate elements from the Insomniac Spider-Man series thanks to Yuri and Spidey working together, but also the next set of events that transpire. Before we can get there, however, we discover that someone was outside the stash house waiting to make the jump on the Magia's goons and operation, and that man is none other than the Punisher. Frank had been casing this location for up to 9 days up until now. With this arrest being the 5th takedown between Spidey and Yuri, Frank wanted in on the action. The next time they try to take down an operation, Frank would make sure to be there because he now knows the channel frequency they're on, exposing their location. It's morning, and Peter has to work his day job at none other than the Daily Bugle, but now referred to as the DB. If it can get any more corporate than that, that's how bad corporate realism is for comic books, even in the world of Spider-Man. The DB, under new management thanks to Dex Bennett. Dex can honestly shove it, and I'm so glad he just has a brief moment in the first issue, but it's nice seeing guys like Robbie. My first introduction to Robbie was in the Sam Raimi series played by Bill Nunn, who wasn't just underrated but helped Pete and Spidey be seen as hard workers and heroes. Here we see Robbie questioning Pete about Spider-Man and nearly realizing that Peter is actually Spider-Man but can't put two and two together, again, thanks to the spell. Brand New Day then takes us to Feast, where Aunt May introduces Peter to Martin Lee. As discussed earlier, this is where the comic feels like it takes elements from the game, as it feels almost one-to-one with the conversations, first impressions, and scenery. Look, call me a LARPer, I honestly don't care. This is just how I'm interpreting it, seeing as the game follows a similar path. Pete being at Feast is to essentially find a role to help, as they need all hands on deck to help those who can't or need guidance. Thanks to Martin Lee, they find a role for Peter, that being a computer teacher, so people can enhance their skills and find employment out in the real world. A lot of the scenes showcasing Pete, whether at the DB or Feast, showcases his passion and humanity to help those who need help without being Spider-Man. Moments such as these are the ones I feel lack in the movies, as we honestly see more Spider than the Man, and I gotta thank Dan for giving us heart-to-heart moments. Moving on from the Hallmark scenes, we also see Martin Lee's double life, the man many of us know him better by as Mr. Negative. He's picked up by one of his demon henchmen, and they head to one of their stash houses, but more specifically, one that they had just acquired. When Lee arrives, we see the former employees of the Magia making drugs for Lee, as they have no other choice. The next panel also shows Spider-Man on walkie with Yuri as they prepare to take this operation down, but rather than stealth being used, the Punisher has other plans and all hell breaks loose. Frank crashes the party, and it's just a mess. Lee's army of inner demons starts sprinting towards the unlikely team-up of the Webhead and the Punisher. Frank belittles Spidey's way of bringing down the criminals, referring to it as a slap on the wrist, whereas he offers a more permanent solution. Hey Frank, you gotta make sure that you're keeping this PG still, bud. This is a PG-13 comic, not an R-rated Garth Ennis edgy fanboy novel. Come on, bro. Spider-Man informs Frank that these aren't just regular goons, and they're called demons for a reason, as they don't stay down even with all the gunfire he's loaded in them. Because of this, a few of the inner demons dogpile on Frank and subdue him for their boss to get his hands dirty. Frank is then corrupted and turned into a negative version of himself, with the end of the comic calling him Dark Castle. And no, you don't have to worry about this being a race swap comic like when they chemically altered Frank's skin pigmentation back in the 90s. Marvel, what the fuck were you on in the 90s?
You can't keep getting away with it!
Honestly, for a first issue, I really enjoyed this, and I know some people might not like it simply because as Spider-Man fans, we genuinely don't know what the hell we want. We complain so much and are hardly open for new ideas, new interpretations for stories, and I've seen this with the likes of Hickman's Ultimate Run, which I will say, I'm still behind on, but hearing the fallout from behind the scenes, even over on X, or, I still call it Twitter instead of X, it could have been worse, and from the issues I've read, I still like it compared to the current 616 Amazing Spider-Man run. Call me an idiot, but I don't know, I still do. I still enjoy it, and the only reason why I would probably personally like the Amazing Spider-Man run now is just because of the cover art. The cover art is what sells me. This, however, Dan Slott's retelling of Spider-Man Brand New Day felt different to me. Issue 1 of Spectacular Spider-Man Brand New Day entertained me, and I didn't feel like I had to do a load of homework trying to figure out what the hell's gonna happen, especially after I just finished my first semester in college.
I hate it here!
It was easy to digest and easy to read. Not in a bad way. I'm not saying that it's easy, that it's that bad. I'm saying it's easy so I can actually pick it up, read, and not feel bad about it, and not feel like it's complicated. The soft reboot and rewriting of One More Day for this retelling was also touching. This series is honestly a great way to bring in new fans, whether they're into the MCU or the video games, as the comic book world can be very stressful and anxiety-inducing when trying to figure out where to start or just what to read. There aren't many issues I have against this story, as I don't consider myself a veteran reader of the wall-crawling menace, but I will say, when a story has good writing and art such as this, they can win me over. The action sequences are thrilling and engaging, as the art is well done and the writing mixes with it very easy, making the immersion enjoyable. Having characters like Yuri make me wonder where they'll go with her, and if they'll use more video game elements, especially after we've seen Feast and Lee. I am hopeful for the issues to come and hope it delivers, as most Marvel comics tend to cut off a series at just 5 or 10 issues alone if they underperform. For a story like this, I'd be open to seeing a 10 to 20 issue run so long, and I mean it, so long as Marvel doesn't jeopardize the story and fans support the writers and the artists by purchasing the comic, whether it's physical or digital. If you guys like this video, please be sure to let me know what you think, what your thoughts are on this story. This is That Guy Franky, yours truly, swinging off to the next video.